Turkey launches a military offensive against Kurdish fighters in northeastern Syria. Turkey's leader says he wants to eradicate the threat of terror, but Ankara's move sparks a wave of global condemnation. Several deaths have already been reported. 14, that's the number of new cases confirmed of African swine fever in South Korea after another suspected case tests positive. For quarantine officials, it's all hands to the pump to try and contain the deadly disease that's fatal to pigs. Plus, they are the power packs that drive mobile phones, laptops, electric cars, solar panels and more. The Nobel Prize in Chemistry goes to 3 scientists who helped bring the world lithium-ion batteries. Our top story this morning, Turkey has launched a ground offensive in northeastern Syria, just hours after deploying warplanes and artillery to territories held by Kurdish forces. The international community has slammed the Turkish aggression, including other countries in the region, the UN, as well as a number of European nations as well. For more on this, we're going to turn straight over to our Kim Dami. So Dami, Turkey has been telegraphing this offensive for days now, but we can now say for sure that it's underway.
Right, Mark. Turkish officials confirmed that troops have now entered the area east of the Euphrates. Based on video footage, civilians fled border towns filled with smoke and visible jet trails in the sky. At least 15 people, including 8 civilians, have been killed so far, according to the London-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan says the operation is to create a safe zone with Kurdish forces, which will also shelter Syrian refugees. The Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces earlier vowed to resist any Turkish advance. President Trump on Wednesday called the Turkish offensive a bad idea after essentially giving the invasion the green light following his abrupt decision to pull U.S. forces out of that part of Syria. That decision sparked a storm of criticism at home and abroad. While the UN Security Council will meet on Thursday to address Turkey's military operation, European Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker pressed Turkey to halt its military actions. The international community, including France, Germany, and the UK, also called Turkey's operation an act of jeopardizing security and humanitarian efforts. Back to you, Mark.
Okay, thank you, Dami, for that. We'll be reconnecting to her for more world news in just a moment's time. Now, China is downplaying expectations for progress on its trade talks with the United States. This despite President Trump's rather optimistic remarks on Wednesday. According to Reuters, Chinese government officials said the Trump administration's recent blacklisting of 28 Chinese firms generated a negative atmosphere. They said while Beijing wants the trade war to end, they are not optimistic about any agreement in the short term and added more time is needed to improve ties. President Trump told reporters this week that there's a really good chance a deal will happen. The first minister-level talks in 2 months are scheduled for Thursday and Friday in Washington. South Korea and Japan are set for a showdown at the World Trade Organization's Geneva headquarters over Tokyo's export restrictions on Seoul. Direct-level officials from the two sides will attend Friday's talks. This comes after South Korea sent a request for a bilateral consultation after lodging a complaint to the WTO last month. According to WTO rules, both parties are expected to hold their first consultation within 30 days of the original request. In July, Tokyo imposed export restrictions to South Korea on 3 high-tech materials, which are crucial in the production of semiconductors and displays. Seoul says the curbs violate WTO rules and the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade. Now, South Korea has been forced to endure Japan's unprecedented trade curbs for almost 100 days now. Tokyo's decision and subsequent countermeasures by Seoul have seen bilateral ties sour to levels not seen in many years, and there's no end in sight either. Since Friday will mark the 100th day of these curbs, we thought we'd take a look at how local consumers here in South Korea have been responding to Japan's efforts to really turn the screws on the South Korean economy, which is already going through a rather hard time. Kim Bo-kyung reports.
100 days have passed since Japan imposed trade restrictions on South Korea in July, and South Korea's boycott of Japanese products is still going strong.
This street outside Gangnam Station is one of the busiest streets in Seoul. But despite the number of people passing by, the inside of this Japanese brand shop looks rather quiet.
Japanese clothing brand Uniqlo saw its sales decline in July by around 70% compared to June, according to an analysis of 8 credit card companies.
Japan's trade retaliation and economic restrictions triggered me not to buy products related to Japan.
South Koreans also decided not to take vacations in Japan. A recent report by the Korea Economic Research Institute said that only 870,000 South Koreans took a trip to Japan during the summer vacation period in July and August. That's a 27% decrease on year.
As the number of Korean tourists in Japan fell during the summer vacation period, Japan saw a decrease of about $200 million in the indirect production. Accommodation saw the biggest decrease, followed by food services and retail.
Yet, Japanese firms aren't the only ones feeling the effects of the boycott.
As the demand for Japan tours decreased, sales and business profits of domestic airlines also dropped, eventually harming South Korea's economy.
Thus, some people are saying Seoul has to improve ties with Japan by having talks for Seoul's own sake.
The current economic situation isn't very good, so I wish we could talk this out, trying to pursue what's good for our nation.
As the boycott continues, the harm to both countries' economies will only increase. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
Now, after working-level nuclear talks between North Korea and the U.S. fell apart in Sweden last weekend, the North has aired a lengthy documentary highlighting the regime's various ICBM launches over the past couple of years. Experts say the decision to broadcast the film could be a subtle, although not that subtle, message to the United States to get serious about its negotiations with the regime. Lee Min-sun reports.
Only a few days after working-level talks between North Korea and the United States collapsed in Stockholm, North Korea has broadcast a documentary showing the wide range of its intercontinental ballistic missile launches since 2017. North Korea's state-run Korean Central TV aired the 100-minute-long documentary on Tuesday, showcasing the regime's achievements toward self-reliance, including in terms of defense. The second half of the film focuses on showcasing various ICBM launches conducted in 2017 before North Korea declared a moratorium on testing. The section on the regime's defense industry includes all the weapons and missiles tested under Kim Jong-un's rule, including the launch of Hwasong-15, the regime's last ICBM launch in November 2017. This comes as the North Korean leader has been emphasizing the importance of self-reliance in a number of areas. Speaking during a tour of military-run farms in his first public appearance in almost a month, Kim emphasized the importance of developing the North's agricultural sector to overcome the country's food supply issues.
The emphasis on self-reliance means Kim thinks the North should stand on its own economic strength, even if negotiations with the U.S. break down. It seems the regime is emphasizing this issue because the recent working-level talks in Stockholm broke down.
Some experts also believe North Korea's fresh emphasis on self-reliance and showcasing its ICBM capabilities is to call for internal solidarity and to urge the U.S. to change what it sees as Washington's stubborn and inflexible attitude toward its nuclear negotiations with the regime. Lee Min-sun, Arirang News.
Japan's self-defense forces held a drill on Wednesday to deploy U.S. Patriot missiles in Tokyo, the first such exercise held outside its facilities or U.S. military installations in 6 years. Taking place at the Tokyo Rinkai Disaster Prevention Park, the SDF followed procedures to deploy missile launchers, a radar tracking missile, a power supply vehicle and other equipment needed to respond to a potential enemy attack, while the latest drill follows 11 missile launches by North Korea since May. Japan's defense ministry denied the drills were in response to those tests. Now, it has emerged that the U.S. Navy and Marine Corps held a joint drill in Japan last month in an exercise designed to increase battle readiness in the Indo-Pacific region. According to the U.S. 7th Fleet Command website on Wednesday, the joint drill of the Ronald Reagan Carrier Strike Group and the Boxer Amphibious Ready Group was held on September 23rd. It included maritime strike operations, search and rescue operations, and fast attack craft defense, among other things. Watchers say the drill could be a show of strength to China amid the ongoing trade spat between the U.S. and China.
Now, shifting gears on other news around the world, the Nobel Prize in Chemistry has been bestowed to a group of scientists for their work on developing lithium-ion batteries. The Nobel Committee said they had laid the foundation for the development of a commercial rechargeable battery. Lee Seung-jae reports.
This year's Nobel Prize in Chemistry was awarded on Wednesday to 3 scientists who each oversaw a unique set of breakthroughs in the field of lithium-ion battery technology.
The Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences has today decided to award the 2019 Nobel Prize in Chemistry jointly to John B. Goodenough, M. Stanley Whittingham, and Akira Yoshino for the development of lithium-ion batteries.
According to the Nobel Committee for Chemistry, their combined work not only revolutionized portable electronics, but also long-distance electric cars.
This year's Nobel Prize in Chemistry rewards the development of lithium-ion batteries. We have gained access to a technical revolution. The laureates developed lightweight batteries of high enough potential to be useful in many applications. Truly portable electronics, mobile phones, pacemakers, but also long-distance electric cars.
Their work dates back to the 1970s, when Whittingham first proposed a prototype, while Goodenough greatly improved the battery in the 80s. Yoshino's work dramatically improved safety and enabled the commercial production of the batteries. At 97 years old, Goodenough also becomes the oldest laureate to receive a Nobel Prize in any category, while Whittingham becomes the second British-born researcher to win a Nobel Prize in Science this year. The trio will share a cash award of over $900,000, a gold medal, as well as a diploma that will be conferred in Stockholm on December 10th, the anniversary of Alfred Nobel's death in 1896. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Hundreds of thousands of people in California will be without electricity through Thursday. California's largest utility, Pacific Gas and Electric, had shut off power to more than 800,000 customers across Central and Northern California as of Wednesday morning. They're trying to reduce the risk of wildfires caused by dry and windy conditions. According to local reports, citizens have secured emergency rations and batteries for the blackouts, and long lines of cars were spotted at gas stations. Utilities malfunctions have sparked some of the state's deadliest fires, including last year's Camp Fire. A new report shows that well over 2 billion people around the world are suffering with sight issues. This is according to the World Health Organization on Thursday, as it raises awareness of World Sight Day. It says at least 2.2 billion people globally have a vision impairment or blindness, and around half of them have a vision impairment that could have been prevented or has yet to be addressed. The majority of people with vision impairment around the world are over 50 years old. Income also plays a role. The WHO says the prevalence of distance vision impairment in low and middle income regions is 4 times higher than high income regions.
Now, South Korea has confirmed its 14th case of African swine fever. The Agriculture Ministry said on Wednesday that a suspected case at a pig farm in Yeoncheon County in Gyeonggi-do Province had tested positive. It's the second confirmed case in that area. The ministry immediately dispatched quarantine personnel and controlled the movement of people and vehicles in that part of Korea. A 48-hour standstill order has also been imposed in an effort to contain the animal disease. Yeoncheon is one of 6 cities and counties in South Korea that have been newly designated as buffer zones in the pushback against African swine fever. South Korea's National Assembly continues today with its audit of government ministries and state-run bodies. A tense debate is expected at the Education Committee, which is auditing Seoul National University, with rival lawmakers likely to clash over corruption allegations surrounding Justice Minister Jo Guk and his family. Lawmakers will raise questions about allegations his daughter received preferential academic treatment while Jo was a professor there. Other agencies in the hot seat on Thursday include the Korea Tourism Organization, National Pension Service, and the headquarters of the Navy and the Air Force. In sports news, the South Korean men's national football team take on Sri Lanka tonight in the second round of Asian qualifying for the 2022 FIFA World Cup. The match kicks off at 8 p.m. Korea time at Hwasong Sports Complex in Gyeonggi-do Province. With South Korea 37th in FIFA's world rankings and Sri Lanka a lowly 202nd, most expect an easy win for the Taeguk Warriors. However, South Korea's head coach Paolo Bento is urging his squad to stay alert and avoid getting too comfortable. Last month, South Korea won their first match in the second round of qualifying, beating Turkmenistan 2-0. Time now for our Life and Info segment, where we focus on information we do hope will be useful for your everyday life. Today we're going to talk about an island in the middle of Seoul's Hangang River that's been really rejuvenated as a culture and music complex. It's called Nodul Island. I'm glad to say we have our Kan Hyung-woo with us in the studio to tell us more about it. Good morning, Hyung-woo.
Morning.
So this island really is an oasis of calm in the middle of the hustle and bustle of one of the world's busiest capital cities.
Right, indeed, Mark. As you just said, it's in the heart of the capital city, Seoul.
Yeah.
So the Nodul Island was artificially put together in 1917 when Korea was building the Hangang Bridge that now connects the district of Yongsan-gu to the north and Dongsak-gu to the south of the central Seoul. Now, I can say that it used to serve as a popular spot for family picnics until the late 1960s. Mm-hmm. But after years of failed multiple development projects, it actually gradually became isolated and forgotten by the people.
Okay.
Now, after being practically abandoned for about 50 years, now it's been given a new lease of life as the island reopened as a music and culture complex about 2 weeks ago. Under the theme of a getaway from everyday life, the island now offers 2 concert venues, 1 indoor and 1 outdoor. And every weekend until the end of this year, concerts and performances will be laid on to entertain visitors. I went there actually on Tuesday. Let's take a look at what visitors thought of the renewed island.
This place feels somewhat refined. I don't know if there are many people coming here, but I think it's a good place to chill out. It's very city-like.
We used to only be able to walk around the park over there, but now it's nice to have more places to check out.
We also like that it's turned into a place where people can actually come to instead of just looking at the island from afar.
Well, just looking at the video you provided us with Hyungwoo, we can see that the island is a perfect spot to enjoy a picnic or whatnot, while also enjoying the scenic views of the river, of course. But so we all know that it's probably a wonderful place to have a picnic on a sunny afternoon. But what are some of the other attractions our visitors might want, our viewers rather, might want to know about?
As I mentioned earlier, it's now turned into a multi-complex. So of course there are a lot of other places that visitors might enjoy. To begin with, restaurants and a convenience store are in place to make sure you don't run out of energy from walking around the island. Now there's a bookstore also, combined with a cafe and a reading area that's been built to give you, again, a break from your busy daily life. It also has glass doors and glass walls so that you can enjoy the river view while you're inside the bookstore, reading books or doing other things. Now, plus there's a plant atelier, basically a plant workshop where they have classes on how to grow your plant better. They also sell their plant products, so you can check them out. There's also a lounge bar with music playing all the time, and it's not your everyday pub as it mainly sells makgeolli, which is Korean traditional alcoholic beverage that is a milky and lightly sparkling rice wine.
Yeah, it's highly recommended too if you've never had the chance to try that particular alcoholic drink that's very famous here in Korea. So you've given us a lot of information, Hyungwoo. Just before we let you go, tell us more about the operation hours and just exactly how can we get there?
Now, most of the facilities are open from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. from Tuesday to Sundays. And with the viewing areas on the rooftops and the park, they're open 24/7.
Okay, but it's closed on Monday then, every Monday?
Every Monday it's closed, but the outside, the outdoor park and the rooftops are open.
You can still go?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but unfortunately, visitors cannot drive there and park their cars as the island itself isn't that big to begin with.
Right.
But fortunately, instead, there's a bus stop on each side of the bridge. 14 different buses pass by. A lot of buses go there, so the bus numbers are posted on the official website of Nodal Island. So you should check them out before making your way there. But if you're more of a walker wanting to enjoy this beautiful autumn weather, take the subway and get off at Nodal Station, line number 9. It should take about 10 minutes to get to the island from there. If you want to try something new, the Hangang water taxi is also an option.
Okay, so there are land-based options to get there and also water-based options to get there as well. So just a short ride, I suppose, or if you take the water taxi, just a few minutes?
I believe it takes about 15 minutes.
15 minutes?
From Yeoncheon or Icheonnaru.
Okay, sounds wonderful. Well, thank you very much for coming in today, Hyungwoo, and sharing that information. And we look forward to seeing you again sometime in the future. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Now, before we turn to the weather, let's get a quick look at some of the other events that are taking place across South Korea.
Good morning. Colder and drier air continues to flow into the region after many parts of Korea saw their coldest temperatures of the season so far yesterday morning. Most regions had another chilly start to the day, so be sure to dress in layers. We have lots of clouds to start the day for upper regions, but the sunshine returns this afternoon, and Seoul and Chuncheon will remain in the teens all day today, while southern parts of the country will have relatively warmer daily highs. Typhoon Hagibis, meanwhile, continues on its course to Tokyo. It's forecast to make landfall there in the early hours of Sunday. And due to the indirect effect of the typhoon, Jeju, eastern coastal regions, and the Jeollanam-do province coast could see strong gusts starting Friday afternoon. We'll have a brief warm-up for the weekend, then starting next week, things will get a lot cooler, so take good care of your health. That's Korea for you, and here's the international weather for viewers around the world.
Well, that's where we're going to have to leave it for now. Stay tuned to Arirang TV, and a reminder that our next newscast is at noon Korea time. So until then, goodbye. SmartBiz Accelerators introduces the domestic manufacturing sector, which has achieved innovative growth along with the introduction of a smart factory system.